Hello and welcome to Casual Learning. I'm your host, John Bannan. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to make Bannan chili. Now, there's 1,001 chili recipes out there, and I'm not claiming that this recipe is the best chili recipe of all time, but it's a very quick and easy recipe, and it's very tasty, so I highly recommend it. So, the recipe begins with ground beef. So it's a cheaper, simpler chili to make. So get yourself about 2 pounds of 80% fat, 20% lean ground hamburger meat and put it in a skillet or a pan and start browning it. So I have a skillet next to me set at 350 degrees. So let's start that off. So the whole process begins with browning the ground beef. So I'm just going to put the ground beef in there and break it up a little bit. Makes it cook faster. Now, this recipe also calls for a chopped up medium-sized onion and about 2 chopped up bell peppers. I tend to stay away from the green ones when making this, so I'll use red bell peppers. In this case, I've used red and yellow bell peppers. So you brown the 2 pounds of ground beef with the medium chopped onion and 2 chopped bell peppers until soft, and then you drain the fat. Now, I would cook the onions and the beef and the ground peppers at the same time to give the vegetables a chance to wilt in the pan. And they'll also still cook from the fat from the ground beef. So I'll just throw the peppers right in there. And I'll throw the onions, chopped onion in there too. Now I use a yellow onion, which has a strong flavor to it. It's not a Vidalia onion or a sweet onion. It's just a plain, ordinary yellow cooking onion. So then mix this up. Get the brown bits scraped off the bottom and the raw bits. That way the raw bits can make contact with the heat on the bottom of the pan in order for it to all cook evenly. And again, the fat coming off that hamburger meat will coat the vegetables and help them cook as well. Once once the meat is browned, we're going to drain the fat, and then we're going to add our other ingredients, and slowly it'll combine, and then you let it simmer for a little while for the flavors to meld together, and then you have a really nice chili. This is a very inexpensive chili. There's no expensive cuts of meat in here. Very simple chili, but also a very tasty chili. And it's a chili that you can put the leftovers in the fridge and you can eat it for several days. It stays good for quite a while. I wouldn't go beyond a week, but the next day it tastes even better usually because the flavors have had a chance to really come out and meld. But it's also very good the day you cook it. Now you can see some of the fat is starting to build up because our ground beef is starting to get cooked. I drain the fat out because the fat can give you indigestion, and there's really no need for it. The fat is flavorful, that's true, but an overload of fat is not a good thing. So even when you drain the fat, there's still going to be some fat clinging to the ground beef. So it's not like all the fat is gone. So there'll still be that flavor. It's just that you don't need an overload of fat. And I'm just mixing it up and breaking the ground beef into smaller pieces. It's okay if you have larger pieces of ground beef in your chili. Some people like it that way. A couple pieces come out, just put them right back in. All right, this is starting to get done. That pink, what you're waiting for is you're waiting for that pink to disappear. You don't want to see any pink meat in there. I still see a little bit of pink meat. Pink meat's not going to cook unless it's touching the bottom of the pan. So that's why you have to keep mixing it. Now you can see those vegetables are starting to wilt. It doesn't take that long for the vegetables to wilt, and you want them to wilt because you don't want crunchy vegetables in your chili. You want soft vegetables, but you still want to be able to see them. So they got to stay in one piece. So you don't want to overcook them, but you do want them soft. Okay, that's looking pretty good. It's nice and brown. I think that's ready to be drained. So, because I'm not in the kitchen, I have this sort of drain setup that I made, which is really just a large colander in a very large pot. And I stick the colander in the pot, and I'm going to dump the ground beef in there, and then that way I'll get rid of the fat. It'll drain out. And then I'll put the ground beef right back in the skillet. So hopefully I'll do that without too much trouble. Okay. That works pretty good. I'll let that drain for a little bit. Shake it a little bit, get some of that fat out of it. All right, that's good. Now I'm going to transfer this ground beef back into the skillet. You can see all that fat that's in there. A lot of fat. There's probably a cup of fat in there. You don't need all that fat. It's going to give you a heartburn. So I put the ground beef back in the skillet, and now you can hear it sizzling because it's drier. There's not a lot of moisture in there. So now you want to you want to add the moisture because it's dry at this point. So get yourself a jar of tomato sauce. Any tomato sauce that you like. I happen to like marinara. So just pour in the whole jar. This is a 24-ounce jar of tomato sauce. So we're returning that moisture to the chili in the form of tomato sauce. Now, one thing I like to do is put a little water in your tomato sauce jar and shake it around to get that little bit of extra tomato sauce that's in the jar, and then pour it in. So I'll just put in like maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of water in there. I'll close the jar up and I'll shake it, get all that tomato sauce off the inside of the jar, and then I just pour the water in like that. That way you get all that goodness into your chili, and you're not throwing it away or wasting it in a jar. Okay, this chili is cooking well. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit, maybe to 300, because I browned the ground beef. There's no need to overheat it. So at this point, I'm just adding our spices, and we're thickening it. So the primary thickening agent in this chili is tomato paste. So this is a 6-ounce. This is a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. So stick in the can of tomato paste. This stuff is sticky, so it's difficult to get out. I also use a very long spoon because these cans are long, and just a regular teaspoon isn't going to be as good as a spoon like this, an elongated half teaspoon. I don't know if you have one of these, but these are nice to use on occasion. Okay, so just take that paste and mix it around in the chili. So you see it's already thicker because of the tomato paste. Because chili is supposed to be thick. It's already starting to smell good. I can smell that tomato sauce, the onion. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to add our spices. So we're up to step 3. Add salt and pepper, garlic powder, cayenne pepper, paprika pepper, and chili pepper. The most you're going to add of all these spices is the chili pepper. Salt and pepper goes in basically any dish that you're making, and it makes it better. But the other spices add the heat that you want in a chili. So you're going to be liberal with those spices. I'm going to throw in, a little bit of salt, maybe a pinch or two of salt. Then I'm going to put a nice layer of black pepper on top. We'll mix that together. And when you go to taste this to see if you got your spices right, you got to make sure you mix everything together before you taste it, because you got to evenly distribute the spices to make sure that whatever you're tasting is going to taste like the dish itself. All right, so salt and pepper. I've got some paprika, so I'll put a nice little coating of paprika in there. That's just for extra heat, really. And then I got some cayenne. I'm going to do the same thing. That's for extra heat. Some cayenne in there. Just coat the surface. And then I'll throw some garlic powder in there. And that's just for flavor. A little garlic powder is nice. Nice touch. And I'll mix this up. Okay, now I'm going to put in the chili powder. And you're going to put more chili powder in here than you're going to put in any of the other seasonings. This is what makes it taste like chili, and it gives it the heat of chili. So I'm going to put a nice liberal coat on top full of chili powder. Now, chili powder is much darker, and it's going to change the color of the chili to darker. So I'll coat the top with the chili powder, and I'll mix it up, and then I'll taste it to see whether it's at the flavor level that I want. You see how it's already darker than it was before, and that's because of the chili powder. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to taste it, give it a taste, see if it's got the heat that I want. I'm really checking for the heat. It probably needs a little bit more heat. So I'm going to add more chili pepper, or chili powder, I'm sorry. Go ahead, give it another dusting. And I only usually put chili powder in twice, because usually it's hot enough the second time. But again, it's a personal preference as to how hot you want it. So you may want to do something different, or add more chili powder, or maybe you want to put in a different sort of heat. That's up to you. You can play games with this in terms of what kind of spices or seasonings you put in it. This is just my usual combination. So we'll try this again. See if I got the heat right. Yeah, that's good. You got to understand that the heat's going to intensify as it sits there, and in the next day it'll be even slightly hotter. So if you get kind of a slight burning sensation, you've gone far enough, because the heat will intensify a little bit later. So that's enough. All right. So what's the next step? The next step is Add a can of dark red kidney beans. So here's a can of Hanover dark red kidney beans. This is a 15.5 ounce can. So you open it up, and I use the lid to drain the liquid out of it. You don't want the liquid in your chili. So you drain the liquid out of the can, so all you have is the beans. And then this is the point at which you toss the beans in. See, the beans don't have to cook. All they need to do is heat up. So that's why I put them in at the end. And the beans are critical because this is what makes it look and taste the texture of a chili. So without the beans, it's not a chili. You got to have dark red kidney beans in this recipe in order to be able to call it a chili. And the chili powder, obviously, but beans are critical. Okay, so at this point, it's done. It's finished. So at this point, I would just put it on low heat and put a lid on it, and you're just gonna let it stay warm. And you just give the seasonings a little while to incorporate themselves in the entire dish and meld. So, maybe you leave it on simmer for 15, 20 minutes, something like that, and you're ready to serve. So what I'll do is I'll put a lid on top of it because I don't want it to dry out. But I do want it to give it a chance on low heat or simmering or warm heat to get those flavors to meld together. So, fifth step, leave on warm, low heat and serve whenever you want to. And you serve it with buttered saltines. Now, this is the way I like to eat chili. It's an unusual way to eat chili, but it's also a delicious way to eat chili. And once you try it, you'll never go back. So, it has to be saltines, though. Can't be Ritz crackers or some other cracker. It's got to be saltines. And I would use a premium saltine, like a Nabisco, not an off-brand saltine. Because believe it or not, cheaper saltines taste cheaper. So what I would do is I would serve this chili with one of these packages of saltines on the table, and put a stick of butter on the table, and let people grab some saltines and pre-butter them, and use them essentially as a vehicle to eat their chili. So I'll show you. So I would just get a separate plate, put some saltines down, and then I would butter them. So a little pat of butter on each one. Doesn't have to be a lot of butter, just enough for flavor, really. Like this. And if you run out of buttered saltines, you can always make more for yourself. So then I would get a serving spoon of chili. I'll show you. So I got a spoon, a large spoon, and I just put one spoonful in there, maybe two, and that's it. And then serve it with the buttered saltines. So it looks like this. So you take a saltine
and you take a little bit of the chili and you put it on top like that. And this is how you eat it, just like this. Some of this delicious Bannan chili on top of a buttered saltine. Nothing better. Now this is a little hot, so your chili's a little better when it's a little cooled. Not cold, but a little cooler. Wow, that is fantastic. Mm. The saltine prevents some of that hot chili hitting your tongue so it doesn't burn your tongue. It gives it a salty flavor. You taste the buttery flavor, and then there's this delicious chili on top. It's a great combination. Bannon chili is great for cold weather, like in the winter. It's a wonderful meal that'll warm you up. And you can make a little bit of ground beef can make a meal even for a couple of days. So it's a very economical and very delicious meal, and it stays well in the fridge. So the sixth step is the flavor is better the next day. So heat up and serve. So you have your chili on the first day when it's basically right off the stove. Put it in the fridge, let it sit. Next day, warm it up. Use a microwave or put it back in a pan and heat it up over medium heat, and then eat it again. And you'll find it's actually a little bit better because all the seasoning has had a chance to really infuse itself into the chili. It's delicious. So I hope you learned something. Go out and make some Bannon chili. You won't regret it. This is a delicious dish. It's unlike any chili probably you've ever had. And I would definitely include the buttered saltines. That's key. So I hope you learned something and take care.